And yo, the Sports Bag Bros podcast is coming back to you after another weekend with sports happening in the meantime. We all know what it's about, at least to start off with. The NBA is showing its provocative booty in this playoff system. The championship game, of course, so far. We're now 2 games deep going into a third game. Indiana did some shocking things in the first game. Oklahoma City got a little get back yesterday. So what's up?
What's happening? Apologies. I'm having technical difficulties on the computer, so I'm on my phone. Hopefully, I'll be able to switch over soon. But it's going back to Indianapolis 1-1. Can't believe when was game one? Was it Thursday night? Yeah, it was
Last
before.
Thursday.
Our show was before the game, right?
Yep.
I was watching that game, and I'm like, there's no way. There just ain't no way. They kept chipping away. And then SGA missed that turnaround. I was like, there ain't no way. No fucking way. I was like, oh, shit, he hit it. I can't believe he hit it again.
Man.
So he got tip your hat to the Cavs and Halliburton for game one, hanging in there and stealing it. But OKC showed their mettle yesterday. They came out. They weren't playing around.
What I was thinking about before the series even started was the lapses that OKC has, and they've shown throughout the whole series of the entire time they've been in the playoffs. But I was expecting that lapse to come on the road because that's what it's been before. It wasn't really at home. They just do what they do at home. They blow you out, they beat you down, or they just kind of make you think you have a chance and they still beat you at home. I wasn't expecting it to be in the first game. I thought Indiana wouldn't be a pushover because they've shown that they had grit. But who did they show that against? It was against the Knicks, they showed it against Cleveland. It wasn't against a team like Oklahoma City that seems like it doesn't have too many weaknesses and it has all that depth. But they were able to pull it off, and the same guy, the same culprit, Tyrese Halliburton, making that play. Man, I don't think this is just a one-off. If they don't even win the series, I think he goes into the rest of his, practically for the most part, the rest of his career doing things like that or having that kind of confidence to take those kinds of shots.
Well, he came up big in last year's playoffs, and that's why I told Scott, I said, watch out for the Pacers. Come playoff time, they're a dangerous team, and he kind of blew it off. Now, I didn't think they'd go to the finals, but I definitely knew they were dangerous, and they've proven that and then some. Like, you can't let them be within a few points under a minute left.
8 or 9 points at their spot.
Well, 8 or 9 with 3, but I'm saying like 4 or 5 points, maybe even 6 under a minute. They still believe, they keep coming. And other teams, I don't know if they get tired or they expect.
Well, at the moment, it seems like Bias may be a little frozen at the moment. He said before the show started that he had some issues with his computer. He's on his phone right now, as you can see from the picture. He'll ultimately get back on his computer once it boots or reboots or starts rebuffing. Anyways, he was talking about the game that we had just witnessed, now 2 games, but the first game in particular with Indiana and Oklahoma City. No one really expected Indiana to go into Oklahoma City and do what they did. I had a feeling they would keep it close, but even I, thinking that it was possible that it's a 4-2 series win for Oklahoma City, I wasn't looking for Indiana to take any of these games in Indiana, in Oklahoma City. I thought those games would be all in Indiana, but nevertheless, they were able to come back and, like they've done so many times in this playoffs, and they're making a thing of it, this cardiac kids stigma that they're building for themselves. Is it just this season? Is it going to be next season? But it seems to begin and end with Tyrese Halliburton. Of course, Pascal Siakam, he puts his 2 cents into it. In fact, 30 points plus when he does gets it 30-point plus games. But it still almost always comes down to Tyrese Halliburton because he's the one when they say, who do you want the ball in whose hand at the end of the game with something on the line? Well, these are the playoffs. And it's in his hands, and he's been making things happen time after time, specifically in these playoffs. And as Bias has mentioned, last year's playoffs. So this seems to be something that he's getting comfortable with. And I think as time goes on, now being in the playoffs and now this deep in the playoffs as a potential championship team, that type of experience is invaluable going into next season. We'll get to see the continued progress of what he's doing. And you just think about it. If he's doing this right now, you only get better year after year. And is he even in his prime? I don't even think he's in his prime. And he's playing like a primetime player. He's certainly playing like a championship caliber player. And he's on the big stage right now with Oklahoma City, with SGA and all of the star players on that side of the ball, or that team. And he's matching them. The Indiana Pacers are matching him. It's not just Tyrese Halliburton. But in any event, Indiana's done some pretty damn good work. And as would be expected, the second game yesterday, they lose by 16 points. They're down by as many, I believe, as 23. And you kind of expected that kind of game. This is the game we expected the first time around. And the way people were talking going into this game, they thought that Indiana's a good team, but they did come from the East. The East isn't as good as the West. And not only are they not as good as the West, the best and most dominant team in the West, which is Oklahoma City, they weren't expecting to put up too much of a fight. And they did in the first game, but the second game was more indicative, I believe, of what the consensus was in terms of what should have been expected between the two teams from Oklahoma City and now Indiana, trying to show that they really belong. But now they do go back home. And does Vegas even learn? Because going back home to Indiana, Vegas has Oklahoma City as a 5.5-point favorite as we speak right now. It may go down a little bit. I don't know, based on this last win. Maybe people get that, okay, this most recent thing, what have you done for me lately? So they may just do that going into this next game. But either way you look at it, Indiana, they show they have that fight. And as I had mentioned to Bias a little earlier, when it comes down to these two teams playing and who has the lapses, you can almost count on Oklahoma City to have their laps. Now, generally speaking, I didn't think that lapse was going to happen at home. Those lapses they've had in the past during the playoffs were on the road when they were blown out by 40 points on the road. When as great as their team is, as much talent as they have, as much depth as they have, they still were able to kind of lose focus. But either way, Indiana's there. They're at home, and they'll have the home crowd behind them. Let's see what OKC does this. Are we going to see a lot of what we saw just yesterday, because that's supposed to be the status quo? Losing by 16, down by as many as 23, and pretty much not a real shot. I think there will be more fight in Indiana when they play in Indiana. And I'll tell you what, yesterday, and I'll be honest too, I didn't even watch the whole game because it was so, I don't know, it was so incidental. It was just, the second half of the game, I pretty much didn't even watch. But what I did know was that they jumped on it pretty damn early when it came down to getting those points that they needed to get that real push in the beginning. And that was Chet Holmgren. He was being more aggressive after having a pretty mediocre game in the first game. Being more aggressive and getting those points out and getting that early lead obviously set the tempo. But with a team like Indiana, setting the tempo in the beginning still doesn't do a lot for it towards the end. This game it did, but with Indiana's makeup and what they're becoming known for throughout these playoffs, you would think that they don't give up. They know they've done it before, and they're comfortable knowing that they've done it before. I don't think they don't panic as much. They chip away, and if you have them down by 23, and when the fourth quarter comes and they're only down by 12 or even 10, they have the confidence to come back because they've been there, done that, and it seems like the same ice water is in the veins regardless. And that's what happened with Tyrese Halliburton, again, with his shot, making it happen towards the end of the game, 0.3 seconds left, and he just did what he's done. It seems magical. I'm hoping that it's not a one-off in terms of the season, that he just does this now and doesn't do it later. But he's showing right now this is where you build those reputations for being great or among the greats. He's doing it right now. And right now we got Bias back, and now he's back on the computer, so things are looking right nice. Now I was talking a little bit about this game kind of encapsulating between game 1 and game 2, and just looking at the way Indiana is a 5.5-point favorite going home now. Has Vegas learned its lesson? They did that with the Knicks. They kept giving the Knicks, making the Knicks the home court advantage, kept giving them the favorites, making them the favorites. And we saw where the Knicks are. They're watching Indiana. And the way Indiana has been playing, you would think that 5.5 points, even though it's respectable considering what Oklahoma City does, but Oklahoma City still does the lapses, and most likely on the road. They slipped up the first game. This could be that road game where Indiana could really pull it back.
It could be. I'm a bit surprised that they're as big of a favorite. I mean, it's not like 5 is huge favorite, but I just think OKC is the much better team.
Oh, they are. They are.
So 5.5, that seems like a lot to me.
Well, a lot of points for Oklahoma.
Course, yeah, a lot of points to give up to OKC. But the line is more about keeping
money balanced,
money even, not who they really think is going to win the game. But it's crazy. Like, there's so much recency bias in the world of sports on TV, social media. Now there's people saying, see, this is why Halliburton was called overrated. This is why they voted him this, and this is why people say he's not a superstar, blah, blah, blah. Dude, everybody's entitled to have a bad game. But I feel Halliburton has to assert himself. He likes to pass. He likes to get his teammates involved. But I think in this series, he has to be more aggressive and look to score more often. He has to accept that challenge because SGA is giving him work on the other side.
Yeah, but he's also shown that he could get that 30-plus point game. And, throughout
but he has to do it.
And now he has to do it.
If it wasn't for the buzzer beater game 1, he didn't have 12. All that good a game that game. I think he ended
that's
up
true.
14.
But in the fourth quarter, they did start picking it up. When they started chipping away, it had a lot to do with how he was helping to run the team as they chipped away. And then it ended the way that he needed it to end when he was taking the last shot with 0.3 seconds left on the clock, and it didn't give them any chance. They couldn't really do anything. It was just to turn around and shoot, and it ended the way it ended. I'm thinking that at home, he could be more aggressive, just like I just mentioned with Chet Holmgren. I think he was the pace setter yesterday. He set the tempo for the game when he started off in that first quarter, being more aggressive because of his mediocre game in the first game. So he set the pace and got them way ahead. And with the talent and the depth they have, well, we saw the rest became history. And Indiana tried chipping away, but it was almost like for every one time that they finally got the upper hand, Oklahoma City got 2 more steps or even 3 steps ahead.
I believe they were down 20 or 21 at one point, and they got it down to 11. I was like, oh, no, not again. No way, no way. But OKC called a timeout, and they came back and took control of the game. And once it was, I think it was 22 with like 8-something to go, I'm like, they're not coming back. There's no way. To their credit, they never let go of the rope. They still played hard, but it wasn't their night. OKC was on it last night.
Yeah, and I'm real interested in seeing how OKC plays on the road. We've seen them play on the road before. We've seen them win on the road, but they're not the same team on the road, and it is a pretty hostile environment, and we see that Indiana, they know how to pick it up a little bit at home, and if that's all they have to do is pick it up a little bit. Yesterday was I think the first game, not in the playoffs, but for a while, that they're shooting below their 40-point-plus average that they've had throughout the playoffs. During the regular season, they were shooting 36% from 3. Throughout the playoffs, they were shooting 40% or more. Yesterday, I believe it's at 35, and it showed. And they lose by the way they did, but it was more. And I think I even remember in the commentary, they were talking about how it wasn't even forcing the turnovers. It's just that they were playing, OKC was just playing that hard a defense against them, making them, just stealing the ball or hustle plays and getting the ball back into the offensive rebounding or the defensive rebounding for them. They were doing that. They didn't have to really make them turn the ball over. They just played tough, hard-nosed defense. And I think that OKC can. I think the number 1 team in defense in the NBA this year. And they said, yeah, Indiana has gotten better defensively, but you still have the number 1 defense out there. They showed it yesterday. They put the clamps on them.
Yeah. And when, I don't even know the guy's first name, but Wiggins dropped 5 3-pointers yesterday. When that happens,
see,
yeah, I mean, that's 15 points right there that they weren't accounting for.
And exactly, yep.
And so maybe, the the Pacers are going to need contribution, maybe from McConnell or Shepard, but they can't come in and just do their usual 4 points, 6 points. It's going to take a whole team effort, and they need the others to really step up if they want to beat OKC. I remember the 1983 finals. That was Dr. J, Moses Malone, and those guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was game 2. Clint Richardson had like 18 points, 20 points maybe. Pat Riley said after the game, if I have to devise a defense to stop Clint Richardson, what's the point? It's over.
Yeah, it has to
it
be.
was over anyway. They got swept, but if the Pacers got to stop Wiggins, man, just throw your hands up. It's a wrap.
Yeah, the players you don't account for, you don't even really put it in the game plan because you're probably expecting 3 points, 5 points, 6 points at most. And those guys on any given night, which I believe almost any NBA player can do, he drops 15. You just don't account for that. And you see the margin of victory. You try to put all of these pieces together and figure out, how did we get here? How did we get to this larger margin of victory? Not just the 16-point final score, but even up to 23 points. And you see something like that wasn't expected. Or you see that defense, it's not intermittent. They've played defense fairly well throughout the playoffs, but it looks like they put in some desperation defense in front of the home crowd yesterday, and it showed there. It wasn't even really anything completely decisive in terms of turnovers or how many points off of turnovers, and you can probably decide how the margin of victory ended up being what it was because of that. It wasn't rebounds because there wasn't too much of a difference between the rebounds. It was just at the moment and how they did it and the execution. And I think the number one problem, I think, for Indiana was that 35% from three-point range, which was less than what they're doing. They shot 40 times. So and they've gotten so used to being able to hit these threes and keep themselves close or really rally and try to win the game. And it just didn't work yesterday. And we saw the result. Now, going into Indiana, do they go back to what they were? Because now the way they've played with 40% three-point range, three-point shooting, that's become their playoff norm. So do they go back to that playing normally, or do they struggle again? Does Oklahoma City defense does travel? Are they able to slow them down again this second time, third time actually? If they slow them down in Indiana, it's a different story.
I'll tell you what I noticed. OKC has guys who can beat their men off the dribble, and Indiana, see, as well as Siakam's been playing, Caruso was in his shorts yesterday. It looks like Indiana struggles to get good looks. A lot of times, a bunch of their shots are with the shot clock winding down.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other end, that's just not the case. SGA can get to the basket. Chet can get to the basket. And once you have to help on the drive, that opens out the three-point line. And then you got a guy running out. They make the extra pass. Dude's wide open in the corner. It's hard to beat that, especially if they're making their shots. But I think the pressure the drives are putting on the Pacers defense is taking a toll, and the Pacers aren't able to reciprocate.
And it's odd because they are an offensive team. They're the ones that's not known for great defense, but their defense is better than it was last year. OKC has offense and they have defense, much more of a complete team, and that depth just helps everything out. And Indiana has played in spurts and played in, getting those drives or those long times when they could go up 10-0, or they could get a 12-2 run. They've done that a few times. And so, they should be.
Problem was they were down 20 at the time when they did it.
I know, right? It was almost garbage time
when the score's close.
But even in the game in which they won in the first game, it's them coming back, and they were behind in that game. They were able to come back and chip away at the lead. I think at home, though, I think this is probably the game in which Tyrese Halliburton does try to initiate the scoring and not just trying to get everybody involved. He's probably going to try to get those points the same way Chet Holmgren did yesterday, getting it started off by scoring those points. And then he's going to start dishing the ball around and just kind of getting the team involved, because that's the only way you're going to really make it happen.
Another key could be them going with Hartenstein and Chet on the floor at the same time. So maybe that deterred them from driving, because Chet got a couple blocks, and
he got blocks early too.
Stuff thrown out of bounds. You stop thinking about going to the hoop.
Yeah, But I'm also thinking that's a slower set as well. And Indiana does push the tempo. And they can get these guys into a bit of a horse race, at least early on. And still, regardless of what the final score is, and regardless of what the over-under says, it's always this first quarter I'm not worried about, but it's intriguing to me that a team like Oklahoma City that seems to score whenever the hell they want, and then you have Indiana, which is a scoring team as well, and they can't get over 50 points in the first quarter together. But then the rest of the game, they're back to just doing what they've been doing, getting the high over-unders or the overs for that matter, the 56 points and the almost 60 points in the following quarters. It's this slow start. Even when Chet had got it off, pop it off early yesterday, they still scored, 46 points in the first quarter between both teams. And it just seemed odd to me. That's why I thought that Indiana had a chance, because I was like, okay, Oklahoma City slowing down like they always do in the first quarter. Second quarter, they're going to pick it up, but I thought Indiana could run with them, and it just pulled away further and further and further.
I think there's a decisive advantage for OKC once the second stringers are in the game. That's when you see the lead gets extended.
Yeah, because you're seeing Tyrese Halliburton sit on the bench yesterday and just seeing the lead just get bigger and bigger. Then he comes in, and there's not really much of a difference, but it's better than when he's not out there, and Oklahoma City does have the better team, and they are expected to win. The odds-on favorite before the series, and now during the series, we can see that the argument is still there. I'm still not going to give up. I'm still thinking 4-2 because Indiana, I think, gets one of them at home. And I wouldn't be surprised for them to get two of those at home. But I think once they get those two, if they get the two, that's 3 games. But Oklahoma City, very tough at home. And I don't think it's lightning strikes twice with them. If Oklahoma City, goes back home and Indiana is put on them to win in Oklahoma City, I don't think lightning is going to strike twice there. It's going to be a lot of what the Knicks did when they went to Indiana in that final game and just forget about it. It wasn't even an opportunity. They just got beat pretty much from beginning to end, and destiny just had its way.
Yeah, I'm still saying 5, man. I don't see it going 6. I mean,
really?
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking obviously,
unless OKC might get bothered by the crowd, maybe there's a foul call here that puts somebody on the bench, but outside of that, they're just better. They just are.
Yeah.
I don't see what the Pacers can do to change the direction this series is going now. Like they need 30 out of Halliburton. They need 30 out of Siakam. They need 25 from Miles Turner. They need 20 from Neesmith. They need 20 from Nembhard. Like they need monster games from everybody on the court, man. And I already said McConnell and Shepard need to step up. Like, if that's what it's gonna take, how consistent can you expect them to do that?
And that's true, but they've been doing it. And another thing, do you think that?
Not like that though. I mean, they potentially could have beaten almost any other team the way they played last night. It just wasn't good enough to beat OKC.
Yeah, but do you think that that Minnesota is that much better than Indiana, or even better than Indiana? I think Indiana, especially in the playoffs, I think Indiana is better than what Minnesota was.
I don't think that's really saying much.
Yeah, but the point is that Minnesota at home was still able to get that 40-plus point
Minnesota
win.
was going to lose to Golden State if Steph doesn't get hurt.
They
were going to lose that series.
That's a.
They got worked in game 1, and he didn't even finish the game. He had 13 in 13 minutes.
In 13 minutes, I remember that game. I was like, damn, he came out to smoke, and he just got hurt. I'm just thinking that lapse. I'm just not going to count on it, but it's been a recurring theme that.
Listen, I hope I'm wrong. I want the Pacers to win.
I want them to win too.
I feel like I've been on the Halliburton bandwagon before a whole lot of other people. Not saying I'm the first, but before all these Johnny-come-latelys.
Now, I rocked with him after John had to trade in John for him, like a little while back when John started tripping. But I liked him only because the first time he had that game where he had, I believe, 19 or 21 assists with no turnovers. I was on that game before that, but I looked at him when he got that big contract, but I wasn't on top of him talking about Iowa State and all that nonsense. Nah, When he got to the NBA is when I put the focus on him. And I was like, I just like players like that. I like Rajon Rondo because he was getting the assists. So I don't know, assists is just a big thing for me, especially when you're not turning it over. That's why Russ is not on the list for me. But anyways, I traded Giant for him because of Josh shenanigans. But I think that Indiana, because of the lapse, I'll not guarantee it. But hell, what the hell am I going to guarantee? Whether it works or not doesn't matter. But I can see them having another lapse on the road, trying to push the temple again. And because of that home crowd, I think because Tyrese Halliburton may be more aggressive, like you said he needs to be, I think, and the other role players step into the forefront, being at home in front of that crowd. I don't think the nerves are there like they would be with another team that hasn't been there before because they've already proven throughout the playoffs. When does it get to a point where a game is just a game because you can't get any more hype than you've been before? And I think that's what it falls to in the playoffs right now, in the finals. And I think they just hold serve and be able to pull it off. I think there's a hell of a damn chance for them to pull it off in the next game. But I still see a 4-2 series for Oklahoma City. I would like to see Indiana do something historical, not only their first championship, but to do it historically, going back to OKC to close it out. But we have to wait.
But let's look at how you're looking at it. You're counting on the lapse.
Exactly. I'm counting on the lapse because I've seen it enough. That's why.
If there's no lapse, then what? It's over.
If there's no lapse, we get the result we got yesterday. Come on.
What friends you talking about, Mr. Haney? What friends you talking about?
Still his friends. What's going on here? This guy's having his own conversation.
I don't know. I don't know what he's talking about. Please elaborate.
I know, right? Give us some details. But this is always vague as hell when he comes on here. He just said
he's been MIA for a few weeks.
I know, right?
But anyway,
ever since we didn't talk about his golf.
Yeah, but anyway, like I think so many things have to go right for the Pacers, and a few things have to go wrong for OKC for the Pacers to win.
Okay.
And the way I see it, I just don't. Maybe they can steal another game, but there's no way they win this series.
And that'll be that second game I'm talking about to make it 4-2. Because what was the deal on the first game? What was the deal in the first game? Did OKC have to do a lot of bad things, and Indiana had to do a lot of good things? Indiana did some pretty bad things that led them to fall behind as far as they did. And OKC was flowing until Indiana really asserted themselves, and it got to one of those flows in the NBA or in sports period where the momentum is one way and you just can't stop it. And then it just comes with a freak shot. And I'm not even really going to call those types of shots freak shots anymore. They're happening more frequently than freak shots should happen.
I mean, if you watched the game last night, you saw Caruso
the first half, man,
out of bounds, splashing threes, going to the basket, getting hammered. Like, where Caruso playing, like, you got to put attention on Caruso now. Like, that's somebody you got to pay attention to him. You can't just let him roam free. But if you got to shut down Caruso, you're in trouble because you can't shut down Caruso and let SGA do his thing.
Yeah, but
let Jalen Williams do his thing. Let Chet do his thing. And that's what happened.
But Caruso's been a pain in the butt the entire playoffs for whoever he's covered. Whether he's outsized by someone like Jokic, he's all over Jokic, being a little gnat to an elephant on him, just annoying the hell out of him, disrupting him, getting his rhythm off, and he's doing a lot of it here. And he's effective doing it. So anytime you can get points from him, even consistent points, that's another one of those people you don't really account for to get points outside of the people you expect, and you get the kind of result you get, a 16-point home win. And pretty much dominance from beginning to end. So let's see how that plays out in Indiana. Once again, I'm thinking Indiana has shown a lot of mettle in this game as a young team, and I think they could make it interesting at the very least. I mean, the whole thing has been interesting. This is the first time they've really been blown out. I mean, the Knicks blew them out as well, but that was kind of a throwaway game because they just wanted to get them back, and they got them back. This is the final plateau. This is the final countdown. This is the playoffs. This is the finals, the NBA finals. I think just as much pressure is on them as it is on OKC. I think I'm not the only one thinking about OKC having these issues on the road during the playoffs. And I think they may press a little bit and hurt themselves. These are professionals. They don't get flustered too much, but the other team are also professionals as well. And they've proven that they don't get flustered either when the moment's there. They take the shots, they make the shots.
Well, we're talking about the fans that Angel Reese complained about, saying this, saying that, and calling her names. And supposedly making monkey sounds. I
Oh,
don't even think it
God,
was
I
a
don't pay
monkey
attention
sound.
to Angel Reese.
But I'm talking. But those are pretty much the same fans.
The NBA fans and the WNBA fans, I don't know. Maybe so, but those are the fans I think that are going to support from beginning to end. And these are the same fans that which the team is going to feed off of that should give them that bit of a boost they're going to need. Hey, you just need to win by 1 point. And as the Knicks realize, you could be up by 20 or you could be up by whatever it is, and you can have at the end in the box score, it'll tell you, or the stats will tell you the largest lead was 20, and then other team was the largest lead was 103, and that was at the end of the game, and that's what mattered, and that was the deciding factor. And so I'm just thinking that Indiana has a hell of a damn shot to get there, to take it at the first game at least, and let's see what happens in the second game in Indiana. But a lot of NBA talk again. But as the NBA goes, we're heading to the offseason as well. I'm hearing stories, not only because I'm a Knicks fan, but hey, it's Jason Kidd. He's the one who now has a mutual interest in the Knicks, and they have a mutual interest in him. What kind of a fit you think that is? Have you ever looked at Jason Kidd as being a very good coach or just a legendary player that's now a coach? Not necessarily Larry Bird, but a very good, a legendary player who's a very good coach or decent coach.
I don't know. I've never given him much thought. I just know he was a hell of a point guard.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. He's a legendary point guard.
He saw the floor like
He's beautiful out
others. So if anybody can help Jalen Brunson even take another step up, it's going to be Jason Kidd. And if that's their plan for Jalen Brunson to be their number one guy, I think that's a good fit. Because who's going to help him more than a former point guard?
And that's true. That's what you would think, and you would think that the connection between those two should be automatic. But you look at the other stops Jason Kidd has had with the Nets and down in Dallas, and what has he done? I mean, like when it comes down to it, because the Knicks is they're in position, at least they believe that they're in that position to be not only going to the playoffs, they believe they have a championship. Now, according to Chat GTP, and a friend sent it to me yesterday, he was telling me that according to Chat GTP, the Knicks aren't going to win for the next 76 years. A championship. They even had some Mexican team called the Aztecs that were now in the NBA getting a championship before them.
Wow.
Come on, man.
That's nuts.
The Aztecs. Get out of here with that. But that's what he had. And I was like, yo, come on, man. I was like, this is the same Chat GTP just the other day that told me that Muhammad Ali was the youngest champ ever, even before Floyd Patterson. Okay, I'll take your word for it, Chat GTP. I guess I know more than you. Just ask me instead of you when it comes down to that game.
So I see Scott's chiming in. And as far as our MVP predictions, I believe I'm way out in front of you guys.
MVP? Oh, for the NBA
finals. I pick SGA.
Yeah, it looks like it's just handed to him. And he does it so smooth, man. You don't see his numbers until you think about the numbers. You don't, you see him just scoring. You see what he does, and you're thinking about the scoring all the time because everybody's about that stat. But then you see the rebounds, then you see the assists, and then he gets some steals every now and then. He said, "This dude, he goes out there." Man, I can't say it's inconsequential because it is, but he's man. Because it's not, but this guy just goes out there and just does everything ordinary, and he still gets the points. And I mean, don't argue. He doesn't need to do anything different other than continue doing what he's been doing. If you do it in the offseason, working out the way he does, don't change a damn thing, because it's working. And
he hasn't even been going to the line all that much this year.
And that's another thing, because people were whining before about how much he went to the line. That's how he got his points, and it will take it away from him. Now he's not getting to the line. He's just finding a way to get near the line, and with his mid-range game, he has things that a lot of these plays these days don't really execute.
He's hitting dotted line floaters, baseline jumpers, 3-pointers. Like he's all over the court. Don't matter, man. It's a bad dude.
It's clown head. Dude said, "Go Aztecs."
Go Aztecs.
So,
San Diego State.
The Aztecs already in the league by then, before the Knicks win their first championship. Like, come on, man, get out of here with that. They said, where does Giannis go?
How about to Indy? Siakam in a package.
Ooh. But I said that last week. You said he wouldn't be in. He wouldn't go to stay in the Midwest.
I said that, yeah, I probably did, but I'm just thinking because I already see Indiana losing. I'm thinking, what move can they make to put
That
him
would
over
be the
the
move
top?
right there.
It'd
But
be
who they
Giannis.
lose? They lose everybody.
Yeah, they'd have to give up Siakam,
Yep.
Nemhard, who knows? But
Draft picks, everybody.
yeah,
But either way, man, I think that shoot.
or
I mean,
maybe just Siakam, Turner, and picks, and they keep their guards. Now they have their big man. And they might be able to get it done.
Yeah. And I'm sure other teams are out there ready to give away their futures, but he wants to go somewhere where he has an opportunity to win a legitimate championship.
That's why I say Houston.
Yeah, Houston would be perfect, but then they're also giving up people as well. But they got enough to where he could fit in and what they have in terms of their core. They can run with that.
I think Houston, their issue is they have like 4 number 2s and don't have a number 1.
Wow.
Or Amen Thompson might become a number 1 the way he was balling against Golden State. But this past year, even though they had a leading scorer, it's not like he was dominating 26, 27 a game. And then he disappeared in the playoffs. So can you really trust him? So I think their issue is they have like 4 number 2s and they don't have a number 1. You get Giannis, now you got your number 1.
You got your number 1. Yep. And I'm wondering what other teams out there is not OKC, but is Golden State an option? It's an older team. I don't know if they have players to give away or even draft picks because, like I said before, the draft picks in the NBA aren't like the NFL.
Is Levy smart enough to pull off that trade?
Well, going by what he's done so far, I don't know.
If Kuminga had taken the step up this past season, then I'd be like, Kuminga is a good piece. But there's questions about Kuminga. Why did he get benched?
Is it because of Steve Kerr or could it just be him exclusively? No.
I don't know. That's the question. I just know he's supremely talented. He's supremely athletic. I would have been playing him as much as I could. No way he'd have been sitting if I was the coach. But I mean, they already lack depth. So what could they give up? And then you give them Giannis, okay? You got Giannis, Jimmy, Steph,
a bunch of old heads,
Pajimski, and who else? Like you still got Kevon Looney. Who's on your bench?
Peyton,
GP3,
yeah,
Moody. I don't know. Like some of those, I just don't think they have enough to give up to get them.
Let me see.
Post.
Let me see. Hold on. Let's put this over in the chat and see if somebody wants to come in because
Post is a guy who came in and shoot threes every time he got the ball and probably shoot 2 for 12 for the game.
Whoever wants to slide in here and come on with us, go ahead and do so. I'll put the link in the chat. So if you want to run, go run. Come in here, talk a little NBA. We about to switch on over to a little NFL since it's next month anyways. And everybody's trying to get their life together NFL-wise because this is an NFL world. It seems in the United States in particular. There's some other things to talk about. We could talk about that lame boxing this past Saturday. But, the lack of boxing, talking about Keyshawn Davis, if we want to talk about that.
Once he came in overweight, I was like, man.
Over 4 pounds overweight, man. Yeah, you didn't even try.
We're talking about I heard he lost. I just laughed my ass off.
Huh?
I said, and then I heard he lost. I laughed my ass off.
His brother lost.
Oh, it's his brother.
His brother lost, and then he and his brother jumped the guy who beat his brother. My man came to this press conference with a speed knot in his forehead. What's going on here? This is what we have going on. It was nonsense, and it was an embarrassment because you're 4.3 pounds overweight. That shows as a champion, you didn't even attempt to make weight, man. You're almost in the next weight class. That's how far off he was. And I'm glad that his opponent decided not to fight him, man. That's a dangerous fight. It's still fights like that remind me so much of when Joey Gamache fought Arturo Gatti, and Gatti was about 20 pounds overweight by fight time. And Gamache got knocked out, never fought again because he was concussed and had so many other issues afterwards. I even believe he sued. But yeah, man, boxing is way too dangerous of a sport to pull some nonsense like that. But Keyshawn Davis, in terms of stock, hitting the bottom, Norfolk, Virginia, the legacy of Pernod Whitaker at that same arena, the Scope Arena. That's where he fought Jose Luis Ramirez the second time in that arena, and the crowd was there for him. And according to some reports, Keyshawn, they give the fighters tickets to sell to their people. Allegedly, he sold over $100,000 in tickets, man. So people were there for him. And this is how you treat your fans. This is other world nonsense here. But anyways, there was no fight to talk about. So let's even move on from there. NFL, yeah. Well, Aaron Rodgers, the worst kept secret in the history of secrets with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But the irony is Vegas is not buying it because the numbers still hasn't changed too much from when he wasn't there to now that he's there. And based on what he did with the Jets, you can say what you want about them, but they had more talent at the wide receiver spot than what Pittsburgh has now. DK Metcalf is the only new player they have over there. Pickett is gone. And now he's going to be tasked with finding receivers and making them better than what they were when the Jets had a pretty damn good receiving core he couldn't get the ball to.
Yeah, we both questioned it last week. I've been questioning it for a while. Like, why would anybody want Aaron Rodgers? He's been trash, absolute trash.
Absolutely.
He's going to fit in perfectly considering the quarterbacks they've had back in Pittsburgh the last few years. He's going to fit right in line. I saw a meme that said Aaron Rodgers once prevented the Steelers from winning the Super Bowl, and now he's going to do it again.
Damn, man. As a teammate, not even as the opposition. That's crazy right there. So he's creative as hell. Some people out there have some pretty solid talent. But if you look at what the Pittsburgh Steelers have, especially at the quarterback spot, Aaron Rodgers comes in. He's automatically the starting quarterback. And you look at the other people behind him, like, really? If he gets injured or have another Achilles episode, regardless of what part of the season that happens, you have Mason Rudolph, the immediate backup, and then Will Howard, just coming from this season as a sixth rounder who might not even be there when the season starts. And then Skylar Thompson, who's from Kansas State, but he's been in the league for some time, but no one's ever heard of him outside of being at Kansas State.
Yeah, I don't get why they didn't draft a quarterback in this draft. They had opportunities in the second and third rounds.
But you know what? This draft was such devoid of quarterback talent, and just as much if Cam Ward, who was the number one quarterback this past year.
There's guys who potentially could be better in a few years than Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is going to do for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, well, he's got a 1-year contract up to $19 million. That's what he's getting for the 1 year. If he's going to screw up this year, this would have been the same screw up year any rookie would have come in and gotten as well. The same screw up. And
Tomlin might want to retire before he loses his above 500 streak.
Who? Aaron Rodgers?
Tomlin.
Oh, Tomlin. I'm telling you, man, it's just the way, I don't know, the Steelers are going to still get by on defense, so, and Mike Tomlin, Tomlin is, as we always said, is obviously one of the best coaches in the NFL, and he's up there when you start talking about legacy coaches, even though the championships aren't there, just what he's doing. I know people in Pittsburgh complain, and people who don't like him complain. The dude wins the way he wins, and he's giving his teams every opportunity as possible. I'm just wondering how this final salvo, it seems, with Aaron Rodgers is going to go with even Tomlin, because this isn't a coach that Aaron Rodgers can bully around. That's not happening. Tomlin's going to say what Tomlin says. That's how it's going to roll.
I actually think the Steelers would have been better off with Justin Fields, but they'd have to go all in like the Ravens went all in with Lamar Jackson. Don't make Justin Fields a drop back passer, have him drop back 25 times. No, go all in on the run game. You mentioned it. They're always going to play good defense. Well, just break the game down to the basics. We're going to run the ball, run some play action, hit a couple throws, hit a couple throws here, throw there, and win 20-17, 17-14, 13-10, whatever.
We've done that before. Not scoring a lot of points and still winning those games.
But Aaron Rodgers, after his Achilles being up in age, he's not going to be avoiding too many pass rushers.
To his advantage, though, at least he has an offensive line that can at least hold the fort a little longer than the Jets would do.
Right, but I'm saying if you have that offensive line and you have – it just adds another dynamic to the backfield if you have a running quarterback.
Yeah, that's true, and I'm glad that I'm pretty glad. I'm not completely pessimistic. I'm fairly optimistic about Justin Fields being with the Jets now. That wasn't what I was expecting, but you know what? You
You
got to
better
go with
hope
what
they
you
go
have.
all in, man, because if he drops back 15, 20 times, it's not a good recipe.
But you know what? I look at the roster and I look at what's at quarterback for the Jets, and I feel a lot more confident there than I would feel if I was in the Pittsburgh Steelers organization right now when it comes to the quarterbacks. Because when you have Justin Fields, if he were to screw up and not do well, Tyrod Taylor, for all intents and purposes, he's a pretty damn good backup. And, he could at least hold serve. He'll win some or lose some, but, he's not going to embarrass himself like a Zach Wilson. And then Adrian Martinez, I'm still dying for this dude to get in. I hope that he makes the team because the Jets did get Brady Cook from Missouri in the draft. Was he the draft? A free agent. I think he was a free agent. But anyway, they got him. I don't think he's going to make it, but I want to see Adrian Martinez. I got to see something. This camp here, I hope
they still have him on the practice squad or what?
No, he's on the regular team. He's the third string quarterback right now.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah. So when the season starts, when the training camp starts, I hope he does enough in preseason and watching. I want to see the preseason game to see how he does. I like that he was able to do what he did last year to get himself and to maintain the spot on the team. This step forward now, being in the organization. I know a different coach and all that other nonsense, but I'm serious. I'm just pretty anxious to see what he's going to do, man. He was intriguing as hell to me because I watched this dude. You watched him more than me, being an old Nebraska guy. But from what he was up in the beginning in Nebraska, just being there for 100 years, just running to turn to be the passer he turned out to be, and he can still run. I like that, man. It's such an intriguing package to me. I just want to see how he goes out there and does it, or if he can.
Yeah, Martinez is a good athlete.
Damn good athlete.
I don't think Scott Frost did him any favors. He didn't develop him at all. And you can see when he left Nebraska to go to Kansas State, he looked like a way different quarterback. Like, where'd this come from?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it was all coaching for me when it comes to Martinez. Scott Frost, his staff did not develop Martinez, and Kansas State proved that. Like, you don't go from being an average guy who can't read defenses, throws balls to the other team, to now you're throwing for 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, and running for another 80 yards and another score. And people are like, wow, is that the same guy? It's coaching.
It is. And
I mean, it would be one thing if he was a freshman only 1 year, then sat out a year and then played his junior year. Okay, you can see, well, he had time to develop. But he had 4 years at Nebraska. Then he went for his COVID year to Kansas State. And there was stark contrast to his performance.
And the irony with Scott Frost is he's now back at UCF, man. He's back at UCF, his second tenure there. It seems like that's something that happened with coaches these days, recently especially. He's coming back, and he was the one that was part of that undefeated team, even though I think it was a lot of George O'Leary's players. But the same thing with Greg Schiano going back to Rutgers, and doing well there so far. And so, yeah, man, you have coaches coming back from where they came from. I mean, even back in the day, Bill Walsh leaving Stanford, coming to the 49ers, going back to Stanford, not having the same success, but it's always that homecoming deal for these coaches that used to coach at one team or another. But, yeah, anything, I mean, is it too early to talk about what we're looking forward to when training camps open up in July?
It is for me.
Yeah, I mean, right now we're still trying to figure out, not figure out, but teams are cutting players now. I guess they're doing a good thing by cutting players now or changing directions because it gives these players a chance to jump on just before training camp, so they're not left in the cold or letting them go too late to where they can't latch on to another team. So I think teams are doing a good job getting rid of the players or just letting them know now that they can't keep them and give them a chance to latch on to one of these other teams before training camp starts and see what they can do there with a full camp and getting a chance to learn the playbook with some time. Yeah, but the NFL is going to be the NFL. It rules the roost. Here in Jacksonville, Travis Hunter's still the big name, and I think throughout the NFL that he's going to be one of those transcendent players that garners a lot of attention from outside the market. There's going to be some good things with him, and they're showing the plays that he made on defense, even though they said he will have defensive packages, but he's going to be a wide receiver primarily. And he and Brian Thomas, after Brian Thomas led all rookies last season, receiving yards, touchdown, everything. He was just a phenomenal player. Those two together, I'm anxious as hell to see it. And Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby in the backfield and Trevor Lawrence. Well, seeing if he could just, I don't know. I'm not going to call it a quagmire of a career because he's done some good things, but man, get that consistency back on the upswing instead
He's
of
had
being up
talent
and down.
before, so it's not like it's not a situation where you can say, "All right, now you got weapons." No, he's had weapons
He's
already.
had weapons, but I don't think weapons like, well, you know what? I can't even say weapons like this because we still don't know what Travis Hunter is going to do in a regular game. Watching all these films and mini camps and OTAs, not the same. Even preseason, not the same. You know, if that were the case, Macy Brooks would have a gold jacket now coming from the Dallas Cowboys because he was the best preseason player of all time at wide receiver. But the regular season, no, not the same. Let me see. Keyshawn Davis dumped Bruce Ennis. Bruce is 147 and a big one at that. Keyshawn ain't fighting him anytime soon anyway.
Did he duck Devin?
Devin, Haney? I don't think so.
I'm just
You
asking.
know, these guys these days just say anything about I'll fight anybody, and they're not willing to fight everybody. Craziness the way these fighters are. It's annoying. Like even Tio was talking about fighting Devin Haney. All this talking, everybody think it's happening. Next thing you know, on his end, it's no longer happening. And boxing overall, the business side is the worst of all time. Every time you think someone's coming in to save boxing,
Tio retire like 2-3 years ago?
Bro, we already know how that goes, especially in boxing. You retire just to come back. That's it. Retiring, especially when you're young, means I'll be back next week. That's it. Because what else are you going to do? I mean, not that these guys can't do anything else, but boxing is a passion sport. And even if you're losing your interest at that age, you're going to probably leave and come right back. And that's just how it goes. Boxing has that give you a little leg and pull it back.
I make a prediction. There will never be another fight, not pro prize fight anyway. There's gonna be fights at Times Square.
Oh no.
Ever again.
That crap they just showed and the way that the fights turned out when Devin Haney's pretty much MIA in a win. I mean, how do you go that? You're like MIA in a win, and it was just a nondescript win. And I think it has a lot to do with the Ryan Garcia fight, man. Some guys get the fight beat out of them. And we talk about how these fighters run their mouths.
I'm talking about watching that fight. There's like limited crowd. The ring walk was crazy.
People just walking through the streets. That's it.
Yeah, it's retarded. That was a dumb idea.
Everything. I remember hearing a story about that years ago. They wanted us to do an amateur fight at the fairgrounds. Just let everybody in, and you just make money that way. You just let anybody in. I was like, okay, well, obviously it didn't go through. It was for Georgia, Florida weekend. We were going to get some amateurs from Georgia to fight amateurs from Florida and pop it off. But yeah, it didn't go too far with that idea. But anyways, yeah, well, got the NFL done, got a little bit of boxing done because a little bit of boxing what took place. So basketball is just basketball. And of course, we don't talk about it often, but the NHL finals is here and they're down in Miami tonight or Sunrise. And I've been to a Panthers game before. So they're down in Sunrise. The Oilers are over 1-1 tied. So the Panthers did steal one up in Edmonton. But
you're speaking Chinese to me right now, bro.
I know, right? How about the Red Wings? How about the Blackhawks, man? Come on, that's your area. Don't even care. Yeah, but anyway, I guess we can shut it down until Thursday. And it seems the way things have been going of late, there's going to be something happening between just now, Monday, and when Thursday rolls around. I don't know what, but something's going to pop up. Oh, college football, a little bit of college football. That $2+ billion suit has now been solved by the judge. And the players are now going to get paid up to, I believe, just over $20 million. So there's essentially a salary cap. There's going to be a lot of problems with that only because there are players that are under NIL contracts now that is probably not going to apply once this thing goes into play on July 1st. And they're saying 90% of the money, the teams don't have to do it. The schools don't have to pay the players from the money, but they are going to pay them. And it seems like 90% are going to go primarily, at least estimated, 90% is going to go primarily to men's basketball and football because they bring in the most revenue. And only 10% is going to go to women's basketball and all the other sports. Now, of course, you're going to hear the noise, but this is what Angel Reese and the rest of the WNBA needs to understand. You can only pay the money you have, and when you're in a deficit, a big deficit for 29 years, well, there isn't any money to play out. You're a subsidized league. But that's what's going on in college football or college sports.
It's going to depend on the school. Like if you think like Iowa, their wrestling program is going to get
Oh,
money.
absolutely.
Or
They bring in money
Nebraska,
too.
their volleyball program is going to get money. Same
But
thing at Wisconsin.
I guess
So it's going
relatively
to be specific to each school as to where the money gets allocated.
well, I guess generally speaking, based on the amount of people, you're still going to have the football teams and basketball teams that make a whole lot more money than even
Well,
the
yeah,
wrestling
I'm
team
not
and volleyball
disputing
teams.
that. I'm just saying for the leftover money after
Yeah,
basketball.
yeah, that 10%. That 90%, as it says right now, is likely going to go to the football and basketball teams, especially of the major schools, because those are the biggest money makers. And, when you come down to the South, you have good track teams as well. Arkansas, Florida, you have some damn good track teams in the South. And
You
now
got some legendary baseball programs too.
about to say baseball programs, and now with the softball programs. But I still think that they're still going to fall relative to what the basketball and football teams bring in. They can kind of all try to hoard around that 10% because that 90% is going to have to take care of the big boys at the top. And yet,
Speaking of Angel Reese, how'd she do with Caitlin not even playing? 4 points.
this
Take another
shit is
L.
trash. I don't know why they're even talking about it. Why is she even a subject? They're still looking at college rings as if that matters in the pros. I mean, it doesn't even matter. They just talk about it because oxygen is free. That's it. No reason to talk about Angel Reese. She hasn't done anything.
And
But
word
yet,
is the tickets were $3.
$3 tickets. Exactly. But they're going to continue to push the narrative because people have their own agenda. She's not even on Caitlin Clark's level. She's not on a whole bunch of players' level. But because she
got benched a few games ago, and
for
her
Cardozo.
teammate Cardozo was killing.
Yeah.
I'm like, that should have been going on all along.
And they still give her some kind of grand opening or arrival when she comes out and they're talking about what she's wearing. She is an influential person, I guess, for the people who follow her. And I think they're also being provocateurs as well. They know that there's going to be some negative sentiment going towards her because she absolutely does nothing. And comparing her to Caitlin Clark even emphasizes more how much she does not do and how much she cannot do. But they're going to have their agenda pushing it forward, and it's going to get ridiculed, but you'll have your faction of tribals out there who are going to just say shit just because that's what they do. And she'll just, I don't know, she's not going to have a long career, I don't believe, because it seems like she spends more time on her podcast and other things outside of basketball than she does on basketball. But anyway.
I don't know what to say. Good luck to her. I mean, she was bouncing her ass the other day. I'm like, man, that shit looks fake as hell the way it was bouncing and jiggling. Didn't even look real.
Man, she's a trip down the entire flight of steps at that. He's Bias Out Tribe, and the Sports Back Bros podcast will come back at you on Thursday. Between now, Monday, and Thursday, there should be some things to talk about on Thursday. But until then, deuces.
Adios.